G'day guys, Brock Layden here, another week, another video, and today what I wanted to discuss is curiosity. And in this video I'm going to discuss curiosity not as a broad, airy-fairy, high-level concept, but I want to discuss it in terms of tangibly the difference it can make when you're trying to build a career in the world of Big Four consulting firms or other types of consulting firms, for what it's worth. And there are two reasons I wanted to talk about it. One is the fact that, I remember being a grad and you'd have these training events or Q&A things with partners, and so you get the opportunity to ask partners questions or directors, whatever it is. And one question that almost always comes up from someone is like, well, what do you think it takes to be a great grad or build a successful career, or what do you look for in graduates? And there's a whole range of answers that come back from partners about that. A very broad question, right? And so the answers that come back are also quite broad, and all the things you'd expect, hardworking, interested, passionate, whatever else. And one of them that I've heard over the years repeated is curiosity. A partner will say that they'll look for grads who are curious. And I've had one leader in my own journey who I've heard repeat that multiple times to myself and then to grads over the years when I've been in the room. And to me, it always sounded just like an airy-fairy answer, like curiosity. Okay, what does that mean? How do I be more curious? Why does it actually even matter? Why is curiosity even important in the first place? Can I just do my job well? Why do I need to be curious about it? So that's one reason I was interested in making this video. And the second one is that just last week, as I record this, in Melbourne, I went to, there's an exhibition on about the life and the works of Leonardo da Vinci. And I learnt about Leonardo da Vinci reading this awesome biography by Walter Isaacson and another thick boy like Steve Jobs last week. And when I read a biography, I usually walk away remembering a whole bunch of stories from that person's life, but kind of 2 to 3 words that, in my mind, sum up what made that person unique, what I remember them for. And one of the words that I remember from Leonardo is curiosity. And it was actually reading that book and learning about Leonardo da Vinci that made it kind of clicked in my mind why curiosity is important. It's kind of like hearing the same message. People were already talking about curiosity. That's no worries. So the concept of curiosity being important wasn't new to me, but reading that book and seeing how Leonardo was curious made it click for me. It's a different way of hearing the same message. And that's what I want to share today. Both, talking about Leonardo's life, but the video isn't about Leonardo. I want to talk about how curiosity is so beneficial for a Big Four consultant. So, Leonardo essentially just had an insatiable curiosity. He was, I don't even know how to describe it. Probably the best way to put it is that he lived in the world day to day, and he just looked at things and he wondered about them. He had this childlike curiosity, this insatiable is the word that I keep coming back to, desire to just learn how the world around him worked. And one of the great things about Leonardo was that he kept notebooks, and he wrote in notebooks. And a lot of the pages from his notebooks are still preserved today through all the techniques and the ways that they can preserve things these days. And the highlight for me of going to the exhibition, the exhibit last week, was that they actually had 5 pages, 5 original pages from Da Vinci's notebooks, and you could see them, behind bulletproof glass or whatever. And I think the pages only get to come out for a certain number of days every year so that they don't fade and all that sort of thing. But anyway, he would keep these. He'd write in a notebook, and like a lot of people, Leonardo still had a life to lead, and he had things to do, and he kept to-do lists. But the things on his to-do lists were very different to what you and I might have. I'll show you this just to give you an idea. So this is a photo of one of a page of Leonardo's notebooks. And if you look online, there is some amazing stuff that you can see from his notebooks, like the drawings that he'd do, his doodles that he would do are honestly incredible. But this page is, you can't read it because one, it's written in Italian, I guess. But also Leonardo, I mean, this doesn't really matter for the video, but just as a fun fact, Leonardo was left-handed and he actually wrote backwards. So to read Leonardo's writing, you actually have to put it in front of a mirror, which is like really strange. But that page I just showed you, like I said, had items like from his to-do list on it. And I've got a list here of some of the things that were written on that page, just to give you a flavor of like what this man was like. The first item says to calculate the measurement of Milan and the suburbs around it. Like, that's a Tuesday morning for Leonardo. He just wants to calculate the measurement of Milan. What else is there here? Get a master of arithmetic to show you how to square a triangle. Like, why? One of the key things with Leonardo was that he wanted to learn so much, and he didn't necessarily even have an end goal or a purpose as to why he was learning. He was just learning it for its own sake. He was just interested, right? He was just curious. He's got another one where he says he wants to ask some guy by what means they walk on ice in Flanders. Like, I imagine just Leonardo waking up one day being like, how do they walk on ice in Flanders? And just like writing it down and being like, well, I guess I got to do that today. I got to figure it out. Find a master of hydraulics and get him to tell you how to repair a lock, canal, and mill in the Lombard manner, whatever that is. And I like this one. Ask about the measurement of the sun promised to me by, some guy from Italy. And the last one that I'll call out, because I just love this, because this is just a single item on his to-do list for the day. It just says, draw Milan. Just draw Milan. Like, not that hard, right? But I read those out just to paint a picture around, he was just relentlessly curious. Like I keep saying, he was curious about everything. On top of like those items in his to-do list, he also, like, everyone knows Leonardo for his paintings, like the Mona Lisa and the Last Supper and that sort of thing. But he did so many other things as well. Like he studied optics and how light reflects off of things. He studied the human eye and how we actually see. He dissected animals and humans. At one point in his life, he would spend his evenings in a morgue in Italy and dissect like human bodies of people who had just passed away. He would dissect their face to try and figure out like which nerves control whether somebody smiles or not, and which ones control like whether they're frowning. And the key message that I took away from all of this is like, okay, it's all well and good to be curious, but what does it matter? Imagine you're living in, Renaissance Italy, about 500 years ago, and you're also a painter at the same time that Leonardo is around. And let's say that you actually have just as much talent to paint as Leonardo does. You're still not going to be able to compete with him. You could have the same, like I say, painting ability as him with the brush, but you're still not going to be able to compete with him, because Leonardo also brings to the table the fact that he studied the human eye. He understands how we see, and his paintings incorporate the way that we see. One example is painters often used to paint, imagine you're painting my hand, they would paint like a black outline around the hand. And that's how most people draw. You look at kids in primary school draw, they often, have a black outline around a hand. But Leonardo realized that when you look at something, you don't actually see an outline. You just don't see the thing anymore. There's a space in between my fingers, but there's no like black outline. So he didn't paint those. So we understand things like that. He also studied geology. So there are paintings of Leonardo's where there are rock formations in the background, and they are not of real places, they're of fictional places. But the way that he's drawn the rock formations is true to science and how they would look if that place existed, because he also understands how the geology works. It's not just about the painting. Even things like shadows and reflections, how light bounces off of things, Leonardo had actually studied those himself, which enabled him to paint even better. So Leonardo's relentless curiosity meant that he wasn't just a great painter, he was great at so many other things as well. He literally, imagine you're trying to paint a face and you're competing against Leonardo da Vinci to paint the best face possible. You're competing against a man who has actually dissected a face himself. He actually understands not just what we see on the surface level, but he knows which nerves control what somebody smiles like. And how are you possibly going to beat somebody at painting a face when this guy literally understands it to a whole nother level of depth than what you do? And like I said, that was the main thing that I walked away from that biography thinking. Curiosity and I could see how it actually translated into a tangible result. Nobody could compete with Leonardo because he just went deeper than anybody else. And that for me is the main reason, like the main way that it's applicable for a Big Four consultant. Like if I think about like what I said just there, the depth of knowledge. I'm just going through my notebook because a few weeks ago now, I just was like drawing one morning. I don't know if you'd even call this a drawing, but and I'm going to cover up the other page here so you can't see what's written. But I drew that. Well, again, I say draw. I just wrote down, you can see the date there. Curiosity gives you a depth of knowledge others can't compete with. And because the way that I think about it in my mind is that if you're just doing the bare minimum, like you'll ask a question, you'll get an answer, and you go, brilliant, whatever. When you're curious, like Leonardo was, you'll ask a question, you get an answer. That makes you think of another question. You get an answer. Give you another question. And you get deeper and deeper in terms of what you actually understand. Another way to think of it or to look at it is like this. So your capability or depth of knowledge increases as you ask more questions. And if you're curious, you're going to ask more questions. And I think it's underrated being curious now that after having read Leonardo. So I'll bring it back to my own journey. So my line of consulting is technology consulting. And so I specialize in a particular piece of software that I implement for clients. And within that, I have a certain specialization, a particular module of that system. And when I started as a grad, I basically wanted to become, like, the way that I thought I wanted to become the best at that module, right? In the country. And that's weird to say, but that was literally like when I was a grad. That's what I was thinking about. I wanted to be the best in the country at this module. And so what I was trying to do was not just, and I was starting from zero, right? I literally was just trying to learn it. So I was trying to not only understand like what the right answer is or the right way, like the right design, let's say, of this software for a particular client requirement. I was trying to understand like why that was the best design. And if you imagine an answer or a solution, right? Whether it's technology consulting or whether you're writing a report, whatever it is, imagine the answer is composed of like a whole bunch of Lego blocks. And then they're all put together to create a solution or an answer. And the bare minimum as a consultant is you need to understand that solution so that you can explain it to a client, right? And present it to a client. But I think where curiosity gets you is that you don't just understand the broad picture, you actually understand each of the Lego blocks that make up the solution and what their purpose is, why they're there. Because if you understand the Lego blocks that make up the solution, then you can rearrange them yourself and you can come up with different solutions. When you have a different problem, because you understand the individual parts of the last solution, you can take elements of that to a new problem that you face. It's the difference between like passing a test versus actually mastering the subject. Like you can memorize answers and use them on a test, but if you understand the underlying logic and the philosophy of things, whatever it is for what you're doing, then that gives you a whole level of, again, depth. I think about knowledge like depth, and you can get surface level knowledge enough to, do a presentation or, deliver some value to a client, but you take it to the next level by going deeper and understanding what are the building blocks that made your solution? What are the building blocks of those building blocks? Because when you understand those, like I said, you can then rearrange them, reconfigure them yourself to do something new and innovative or to solve other problems. It just gives you a deeper understanding. So that for me was like, I was trying to learn not just how to build the system the right way, like trying to learn not just what the answer was, but why that was the answer and what parts kind of contribute to that answer. Because then that gave me a depth of knowledge that allowed me to do new and creative things with that knowledge, not just to repackage the same answer in a different situation. And for me now, like as an associate director, what I'm curious about is kind of the more operational side of things. So how do you run a team or a practice, a service line in a Big Four how do you run like a consulting business? So how do you set prices? How do you make sure that people are working on projects? How do you recruit? How do you report on things? How do you track how busy people are? All those sorts of things. And I'm trying to bring a mindset of being relentlessly curious about it. And like Leonardo, not trying to just get answers to the questions that I need answers to today, but to try and seek out knowledge for its own sake. Because if I do that today, then when a problem comes tomorrow, I'll already know the answer to it. I won't have to go and ask that next question because I already asked it last time, right? And so that's kind of how I've tried to apply it in my own career. And I think if you bring a mindset of curiosity about whatever it is that you're doing, it might not be technology, it could be finance, could be HR, could be whatever type of consulting it is that you're doing. If you bring a level of curiosity to it, to try and peel back the onion and get deeper into the layers, you'll just learn so much more, so much quicker. And I think it's as simple as that. No one will be able to compete with you because your curiosity will mean that you have a greater depth of knowledge than they do, and that will give you an edge, and you'll be able to provide more value to your clients. People will want you on their projects because you're the best, and you just keep doing that. So I think in a nutshell, enables you to nail your opportunities, do really well because you have this great depth of knowledge. The other thing which I'll just quickly touch on is I think curiosity helps you just find opportunities as well. So when you join a Big Four firm as a grad or a consultant, one of the initial challenges can be that period where you just kind of stuck on the bench for a while. And it depends what team you join and when you join, because if you could join when the consulting market is absolutely booming, like it was a few years ago, or you might join and be a grad today when the market isn't booming and there are less projects going on. You might have to wait a little bit longer. And getting your first opportunity is really important. And I made a video about that, I think it was 2 weeks ago, called The Matthew Effect. You can check that video out if you haven't already. But your first opportunity is really important. And one way that you can help create that first opportunity is to be relentlessly curious. So, you've landed in a team. I'm not going to say you should, because there's no shoulds or whatever. But if you want to try and create an opportunity, you could find out what do the people in your team actually do? Actually spend the time to ask them questions about what their role actually is. Ask them to show you the decks that they're building or the solutions that they're building. Ask them why they do it that way. Ask them what lessons they've learned along the way. And when you do that, people will see your passion and your curiosity, and you just never know what doors will open. Somebody might see your interest when you're asking about their work, and they might just go, well, if you're interested in this, I actually need an extra set of hands and you could help out. Or maybe they don't need a set of hands, but maybe they go, if you're interested, maybe you could join a few calls that I have with the client. And that's how you weave your way in, and that's how you get your initial opportunities and how you get some experience without just waiting for a project to land in your lap, if that makes sense. I think people can sense when I can certainly sense when a graduate is genuinely curious and is interested versus just flat out when they're not. And there's nothing wrong with that. You don't have to, who are you to have to be curious? I'm not here to run your life or anything like that, but you will get an advantage by being curious, trying to learn more, asking questions. You'll find opportunities which you wouldn't have otherwise found. And there's no formula for that because there's an element of luck, right? But I think it was Naval Ravikant who talks about, he was talking about from a broader perspective in life where you might plant one seed and that seed could grow into a mighty oak tree on the first try. But maybe it's not you. Maybe you have a friend or you see somebody, a colleague, who plants a single seed and it grows into a big oak tree. And then you try and plant a seed and it doesn't, it fails. And then you plant another seed and it still fails. And you might not necessarily be able to control the probability that the seed that you plant grows, but you can control how many seeds you plant. And that's the mindset you can take with curiosity. You can control how many coffee catch-ups you have, how many people you talk to when you go to the office. You can control how many days you go to the office. And it's not going to guarantee that on that day that you go to the office, you're going to have a conversation that opens the next opportunity for you. But you can guarantee that it's another seed that's planted, which is going to increase the probability that you'll get an opportunity. Alex Hormozy has this great quote where he says, well, now I can't remember. I think it was like, volume negates luck. And I love that. If you just keep planting seeds, eventually one is going to grow. You don't know when it's going to be. Could be the first seed, could be the 100th seed. But if you keep planting seeds, you will get there. So those are my two key takeaways for why curiosity isn't just an airy-fairy thing, but why it's actually really important and tangible. If you want to get an edge in building your career, it's going to help you find opportunities. So again, planting seeds, you could find your first opportunity just by being curious and asking questions, meeting people, being present in the office, all that sort of thing. And it's going to also help you nail your opportunities. You're going to get a depth of knowledge that nobody else is going to be able to compete with if you don't just try to learn the answer, but why something is the answer. What are the Lego building blocks that go into the ultimate thing that gets presented to the client? Because again, if you understand the Lego blocks, you can reconfigure them yourself in new, interesting, innovative ways, or apply them to your next problem. So find opportunities, nail opportunities. And that's it. That's it. If you want to learn more, two things you can do. One is subscribe to the channel. Again, I'm trying to do a video every week. So if you subscribe, you'll see it in your YouTube feed. You can turn on notifications and that sort of thing if you want. So you can subscribe. Love for you to comment as well. I love getting feedback and hearing people's thoughts on the videos. So, let me know what you thought of this video. Have you thought about curiosity before? You're like me, you've heard it thrown around, but it just sounds airy-fairy. That's the first thing you can do. Subscribe and comment if you want. And the other thing as well is I'll have a link in the description. The second thing you can do if you want to learn more is to join the 8-week consulting challenge that I'm running at the moment. You can go to the link in the description. It'll give you a bit more information about what it is, but it's totally free. So you can check the link in the description if you want to check that out. It's 8 weeks of insights and things that I've learned through my own career that you can apply in hopefully a bit more of a fun and interesting way. But that's all, guys. So thank you, and I will see you next time.